Hey, this is 6 Volt and Von Doom's Lab. This is Hook of the Reaper version 1.2.9 release. So I guess let's get into it. So actually, before we start, we had Hook of the Reaper's kind of birthday. So the first released was February 12th, 2025. So it was pretty much close to actually the last release. I think it was only a day away, but now it's been over a year, so it's kind of time goes by really fast. So I remember things from the launch. It was kind of a crazy launch. I think the one thing that always kind of sticks out for me is no one knew who I was at the time. I just came out of nowhere, but I know someone actually was watching Hook of the Reaper on GitHub. So when it released it, it got out even before Retro Shooters announced it on their Facebook, which is kind of cool. So people actually kind of found the project before it even kind of got released. And also, I remember people sending me like huge, like MAME hooker INI files and asking me, it's like, can you run this? Can I run this? And then there'd be like this huge file with all this stuff in it. And I'll be like, no, not right now. And they're like, oh, well, you going to have it later? And I'm like, yeah, but mostly it was just tons of like light control stuff, which is like huge, like all these pins for everything. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, I get to it, but I'm not going to do that way, which I didn't. But that kind of was like some of the two things that stuck out from the launch. But in the year, it seems like Hook of the Reaper has taken over Light Gun Force Feedback. If you know, that's what it seems for me. It seems like everybody pretty much recommends Hook of the Reaper over MAME Hooker. You know, it was for a while as long as you had lights, you know, you still use MAME Hooker. But now it's like pretty much there's no reason to use MAME Hooker unless you're using very like specific things. And I got the website up with all the game files and also tutorials with videos and documentation of the default LG game files. So like I was talking about now, look at the Reapers moving into light control. So, and another thing was switching from Windows communication to networks, which is a lot better for the future. And when I started, I supported 3 light guns, which was the RS3 Reaper, MX24, and the JB Gun for IR. So 3 light guns, but with this release, I'm up to 12 light guns. So that's 4 times the amount from where I started. So, and right now I support 3 output methods: serial port, USB, HID, and TCP. So I still cannot do everything that MameHooker did. Like key states, sounds, like video and graphic stuff. I know it did, but I haven't got that stuff in, and I don't know if I will maybe put key states in. I don't know, sounds and video probably, but it just depends on kind of where it goes. And also, I can't. People can't fully customize their default LG game files, and one of the kind of the reasons is no one really asked for it in the last year. I put all the normal stuff in for the light gun, but I had one guy who's like, "Well, how do you do this for the lights and all that?" And I'm like, "Well, you're the first person who's ever asked for any customization." He's like, "Oh." It's like, yeah, I can put it in, but it'll probably be in advanced features now. I wanted to put it in the first milestone, but since no one really wanted it, I never put it in. So, but it'll probably, I have, already kind of architected how to do it and all that a long time ago. I just never put it in because no one seemed like they wanted it. But Hook of the Reaper can do stuff that MAME Hooker cannot. One of the big ones is the default LG game file support. So you have one game file can run on all light guns, which is a huge thing. So now, the whole age of looking for, like file or for this game is like pretty much ended. And like I've mentioned in the past, even light gun makers have said they've pretty much get no game file request anymore because it just comes with Hook of the Reaper. Then another thing is support for Sinden and AimTrack, where I think Sinden is the most popular brand, or the most brand that has the most light guns out there. I could be wrong. I'm just kind of guessing on this one, so don't take me as facts or anything. And then you can change the settings for the light guns without changing the game file. Like if you want to take out reload, damage, death, shake, you can turn those off and on per light gun without changing the file or anything. You can still use the one game file, but you can change how you want your light gun to work anyways. And also I fixed the Reaper RS3 holdback issue. So now for full auto games, it can hold the slide back, and you can turn that off and on now, or even do changes. Automatic display for the Alien, Open Fire, and now Blancom Alien. So which is cool. So now it will automatically with the game files, if you have like the Alien, Open Fire, the Blancom Alien, it will just start showing the stuff on the display automatically. If it's just ammo, it will display the ammo. If it's just life, it'll just display life. Then if there's ammo in life, it takes your priority, which is default set to ammo. So which is cool. I think one guy who was doing the Blancon Alien, he was like, wait, so this will automatically work? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, wow. Then he's like, okay, so what about ammo and life? And I told him about it, and he's like, wait a minute, so if it's just ammo or life, they will just show up? And I'm like, yeah. It says you only need the priority if there's ammo and life. And he's like, oh my god, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's like really nice. You don't even have to worry about it. So I think he was pretty shocked about how that just done and the files working, automatically. Then, of course, I have the new light controller put in, and it has more complex functions, kind of what you can do in MameHooker. I know you can do a couple things in MameHooker, but it was just more like flashing the lights. I know sometimes you can, like, after you get hit, you can show like damage or something, but that was only like after you got hit. Now I have the background stuff, which is a lot more complex than that. And I'm using timers, and like I said, I have the backgrounds. Then the regular lights are using states, which is, like I went back, talked about, is the 8x speed up. So that kind of gets rid of the flickering that people see. But yeah, the one thing is you have to add a lot more kind of time to the regular lights, because you're not getting all that delay of writing into it. Since it's so fast, you got to add more time for the flash and all that. And I'll do addressable LEDs in the RPEGD Brooks board, which MameHooker cannot do. So I know MameHooker can do Ultramark, then the LED Wiz, and like another one. But I contacted LED Wiz, never heard anything back. And I think the other one was really old. I think Ultramark is, light controllers are the mostly used. I think I've heard a couple people say they had the LED Wiz, but I don't even know the commands or anything for that. I tried to look on their website, and they don't have like really that much at all. But since it's been like Hook of the Reaper had a birthday, I kind of just want to go over like some of the stuff for it, which is kind of cool. Okay. Then some stuff I left over, because last time there was so much, I forgot two things. And the sad thing, I thought this release was going to be really small, and it turned out to be like a pretty big release again. But from this, so this is from Hook of the Reaper version 1.2.8 that I forgot. So One thing I did is I fixed the death light command to make it work for life bar games. So these are the games that use a life bar where it has from 0 to 100 instead of life points. Like everybody sees them playing House of the Dead 4, where you get 3 life points. But a good example is like Let's Go Island, which gives you a life bar of 100%. So I just pretty much reused the working code of a light gun code, and I tested it out and it's working. So that's really good now. So now death works for life points and life bar now for the light command. That was always working for the light gun for a long time. And also I forgot I added internal signal for the recoil rumble to solenoid. So this is the internal signal going into hook light. So people remember the recoil rumble to solenoid was made for the Alien 3, which used a rumble recoil instead of a solenoid recoil. That's where the signal, so when you pull the trigger and you have ammo, the signal just stays high until ammo runs out or you take your finger off the trigger, then it goes down. So it's just staying high and goes low, where a solenoid kind of spikes all that time. So I kind of created a conversion for that to make it work. So, but since it was an internal signal, there was no output signal going into the hook light. So I just made one for it. So when it's using the recoil rumble to solenoid, it will use player 1 to player 4 CTM recoil, which matches what Demal Shooter uses. So I know a lot of people use the default file with the CTM recoil. So now that the recoil rumble to solenoid should automatically work if you have that CTM recoil set in your default file. So that's really good. So those were the 2 left over from the last release. Okay, so now let's get into bugs. So as I saw, this is going to be a long stuff. So, probably going to be a long video. Like I said, I thought it was going to be a pretty small release, but nope. It turned out to be a long one. So going into the bugs, so the first ones have to do a lot with the light controller. So the sequence RGB color map command not working right in background mode. So there were 2 things wrong. First was the write using background group and not the sequence group. So you set the background group, then you have the sequence group comes in, but it was using the background group instead of the sequence group, which can be different. It can be the same and also it can be different. So it can mess up the pins ordering. And second, it was not checking if the command was already running. So in the background, it checks if a command is running. So it shows the background, then if a new command comes in, it starts showing that command, and while that command is running, it will block any other command, kind of the same way in the non-background stuff. So I had to fix those 2 things for the sequence RGB color map for it. And I did file a bug for that right here. So then the next one is the background reload color map could be wrong when not using RGB fast mode. So this is when I got the numbering wrong for the color map count. This is when, of course, you're using RGB, but not fast mode. So this is when you have all the pins, red, green, and blue, in it. So I forgot to get the ordering wrong and was dividing by 3, which I shouldn't have been dividing by 3. So now I took that divide by 3 out. So now it should be picking the right color map if you're using this. So this was a pretty easy fix to do, just to take out that divide by 3. Okay. So I had that wrong for RGB not in fast mode. Okay, then the next one was background flash in sequence commands, we're not unsetting the command bool. And what that means is when I'm running a flash or a sequence, there is a is flash bool or is sequence bool true. So if things get shut down, then I'll know, hey, a flash is running or a sequence is running. Then I can shut those down. So then I know, like, the background is not running, but a flash or a sequence is running at the time. But those were not getting unset after the command was running. So when they start, these should go true. So if a flash gets running, this goes true until the flash ends, then that gets false. But it wasn't being set to false. So both these are being set to true. And when they were set to true, they will never be set to false again unless the background closed. So this could mess something up when when the game stops and all that, because it thinks other things are running. Probably not too much because it's just turning off everything, but it will just do extra writes to turn off things. So it wasn't a good thing. So I fixed that. Was an easy fix to make sure those are getting turned off. Okay. Okay, and light controller window. If redo settings group file, it doesn't clear out the old group file. Okay, this is from when you do the or did I skip one? No, I didn't. Just skip one. So we're down here. So we just did this one. So this one is when you're doing the add light controller window. So if you hit the set thing, it brings up the file thing where then you can select it. Then if you do that again, it wouldn't clear out the old file, the old path and file. It'll just add it to the end. So that was not good, because if you select something and go, oh no, and you had to do it again, you went back and now you had this long ass path. You had two path and files on there. So that's not good. So now if you hit set, it immediately clears it out. So this was an easy one to fix. I just, when you add it, it clears it out. So when you add the light controller, it clears out automatically the file and path automatically. So that's why it was kind of hard to see. But I caught it, so that was good, and fixed it. So that was a pretty easy one to do. Okay. So the next one, RGB. So the next one was the RGB sequence color for both execution and background. In background reload, timer was not disconnecting right. So this is kind of a weird one. This is more how, because when you're doing the sequence, you're using timers, of course. And when you're doing the background reload, you're reusing the sequence color map to reload it. So this is all kind of tied into the RGB sequence color map. And the timers are not disconnecting right. So it was pretty much what was happening. It wasn't, somehow I was using the not color map function in there, pretty much. So if you read the sequence color map timer is not disconnecting right, and it could cause color changes in later commands. As when the timer ends, it could call multiple functions. So when the timer runs out, it could be calling multiple functions because I'm not disconnecting it right. For execution, I got rid of the sequence color map timeout function and just had one sequence timeout function for RGB. One for just using a regular color and one using a color map. So it was easier and less code and cleaner just to use one function. But for the background, I still had two. I still have a sequence RGB and a sequence RGB color map one. And then now those the timers are connected right. for that one too, since there's two functions to be called. So now that one's all fixed and the background is fixed. So for the execution and background, I fixed it all up. So now there shouldn't be any problems with the sequence color map for the background and execution and background reload. Okay. So as you can see, these are a lot of small kind of light controller stuff. Okay. Actually, I think that one. Oh, I didn't put this one in. So this was a bug, I just forgot to put it in. So the background, the flash random RGB two color lights command. So this is where you have one light in the center, then you have two different, or a different color on the sides of it. So that command was using the same lights, the same pins, and it wasn't being cleared out for the background. So if you had a background going and you used the flash random RGB two color lights command, it would just use the same exact pins all the time. And also it was kind of a memory leak since I wasn't clearing out the list of the random pins. It just kept on adding pins to that list every time it got called. So then the list could grow into a huge amount, thousands and thousands of pins in there. So it's kind of like a memory leak actually that could happen. But now it's got fixed. So now it clears out when you call it in the background. It didn't matter for the execution because the execution's only doing one command at a time. But the background can do multiple commands, so that's why you have to clear it out versus doing the execution. Then also I don't think I put this one in. This is the Jurassic Park. Yeah, I didn't put that one in. Oh no, I did put that one. Background flash command was using the same lights. So I did put that one in. But I don't think so for the Jurassic Park, I found out it wasn't blocking the shake from the start. So when I turned it on and I brought up the game, it was shaking on it right away, which should not happen. It should only start shaking when you get into the level select. Then once you get out of the level select, it should stop shaking, and then it should shake normally throughout the game after that. And I think this kind of happened when I put the start in the block shake and the block recoil rumble to solenoid. So to fix the game file, I just had to add the start in here. So originally in the Jurassic Park file was just this block shake equals 0. So I just had to add a space and put start in it. So now it should be fixed. So I have a new game file added with the change files and all that. So now it shouldn't shake right from the beginning. Then also, this is not a bug with Hook of the Reaper, but I did find a bug in the MAME output sender program. So this is the program that used with Nixo's 3 emulators. So the PC SX2, the Duck Station, and the Dolphin. So I probably recommend getting the new MAME output sender. And also I put checks into Hook of the Reaper so it shouldn't have a chance to crash out, because I noticed it was crashing out sometimes. And debugging it, I found out in the MAME output sender, when the game ends, I just put MAME stop. And usually it's MAME stop equals 0 or MAME stop equal 1. So, but Hook of the Reaper was, it looks for that second part. So it was looking for that second part of 1 or 0. Since there was no equal 1, there was no second part, causing an out of bounds array, which could crash Hook of the Reaper. So I updated the MAME output sender code to add in the MAME stop I think I put main stop equals 0 or main stop equals 1. It doesn't really matter. It's just looking for the main stop. So it doesn't matter what it equals to. It just needs that part so it doesn't get the out of bounds array. And also I put checks into Hook of the Reaper to say, hey, if main stop doesn't have a second part, it adds a second part to it. Just adds a 0 or 1 into it if I remember. So I don't think I put this in. No, I don't think I put this in for a bug, since it was more with main output sender. But so I fixed it. So I highly recommend going to the main output sender program and get version 3. So where you get that, if you go here, so if you go to the Hook of the Reaper website, you just come here to hit 6-bolt right here. Then you'll see I have other ones. Then you come here to main output sender. And as you can see here, you'll see version 1.3 latest, 4 days ago. So this is where you can download it. So I highly recommend people get the main output sender version 1.3 on my GitHub. And like I said, I put checks into Hook of the Reaper to do it. Also, a background light count. Oh, did I put that in? Background light count can be off. Oh, okay. Okay, here's. I skipped this one, which is weird. Okay, background light count can be off when not using big count mode. So if your reload value is 2x the lights, so the number of lights that you're using, then you're in big count mode. If not, then it's in normal count mode. So if you're using 15 lights in your background, right? And if that's RGB, you need 15 RGB lights. So if that means you need 45 RGB lights total. But I'm just acting as it RGB because those 3 lights act as one. So that's why, just to make sure. So if you had 15 lights and the reload value is 30 or more, then it's in big count mode, right? Then a light is, more ammo or life, right? Is more for one life or one of the lights. If it's not, so then if you have 15 lights and the reload value is 29 or less, then you're in normal count mode. So this is more checking if the count is really high, then the light is more than one value. So if you did 30, then each light is 2 values, right? So then it'll go 30 divided by 15, you get 2. But if you have 29, right, and you start taking the lights off, the bad thing is we'll take a light off. So if you go from 29 to 28, it will turn off one light, which it shouldn't. Because if you have 15 lights and you take a light off from 29 to 28, then to 27, 26, when you get to 14, all the lights would be off. So that's not good. This shouldn't happen until you go from 15 to 14. So I fixed that so now if it's lower, the things should not start going off until you get to the number of lights if you're in normal count load. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Between if you use the background for ammo or not. But that was the background light count being off. So that's, I think, all the bugs right now that I've talked about. I have some other bugs that I didn't file. And the reason I kind of will get into this now. So this is kind of going back to the joystick mode. So Hook of the Reaper can switch it to joystick mode, and it does that for Nixos games for the 3 emulators. So everything on the Dolphin, the DuckStation, the PCI-Xx gets changed to joystick mode from mouse and keyboard. So all the other game files are mouse and keyboard, and that's kind of what light guns usually default into, mouse and keyboard. But for Blamcom light guns, when you change the mode, it will actually disconnect and reset the light gun, and it will come back on in the right mode. But the problem with that, Hook of the Reaper doesn't try to reconnect, right? Most of the time, most light guns don't disconnect and reset and come back in a different mode. All the other light guns just switch the modes. So I never had a problem with disconnecting, because usually Hook of the Reaper, when the game starts, it connects. Then it disconnects when the game comes out. You can change the setting to stop that, so then it's always connected. But if you want, it pretty much is by default, that's how Hook of the Reaper works. But with this resetting and disconnecting, it put a major flaw into changing modes for Blamcom, especially going to joystick mode, as it defaults to mouse and keyboard mode. So I worked with the Blamcom team to get the reset and reconnect to a very small amount of time, because when it first did it, it needed a delay of about 2 to 3 seconds, which is pretty big. So you change the mode, then you got to wait like at least 2.5 to 3 seconds delay, then reconnect to it. But Blamcom team actually got it down to a small amount. They got it down to about 0.6 of a second. So which is really good, which is a lot better than like 3 seconds. So now Hook of the Reaper will reconnect to the Blamcom light gun after it changes the mode with the fast reset. So big thanks to Craig and all the Blamcom team. So that will help out. So for this, you have to get the latest firmware from Blamcom's website again. So I think it's the 1.1.0. So if you have the 1.1.0, and if you haven't updated it in the last 3 days, you probably need to go get it again, because they made updates in it to make this reconnect happen in the 1.1.0. So you definitely have to go get the firmware. And I'll put firmware was the 1.1.0. And like I said, if you already got it, you probably need to go get it again, unless you updated it in the last like 3 days. So so this was fixed in Hook of the Reaper 1.2.9. So what was causing this? So as you can see here, you have main start. And for all the light guns, you do OpenCom, no init. So this just connects the serial port. Then it sends the joystick mode. So then this is where Hook of the Reaper thinks here it connected to the serial port already. But when you did that, it reset to it. But now Hook of the Reaper checks to make sure it's not disconnected. Then if it's disconnected, then it will reconnect to it. So now that's kind of how it gets fixed again. So after you do this, I put a delay in after changing the modes. I put in like a 0.75 second delay. Like I said, it was like 0.6 second to reconnect. So 0.75 delay was probably good enough to, over 20% over the guard band. So I tested it out, and then when you do the same thing, when you go main stop, you do close common init only, so that's where you do all the commands. Then you do change it back to keyboard mouse mode. Then it will delay, then reconnect, then close out the com, which is kind of a little funny, but that's kind of what happens. And right now it's mostly all in the serial port, hook serial port like code. So probably next release, I'll probably redo it all again and put it into the hooker engine. And the reason for that, the hooker engine has access to, the opencom and init commands and all that. So if you do an opencom, then it can grab all the init commands and send it out and connect to it. Because if your light gun disconnects in the middle of the game and you connect to it, and if your light gun needs those init commands to start doing the force feedback, then it won't work. So this is kind of more to work around with the blamcom stuff right now. So that's why I say in the next release, I'll put it into the hooker engine. So then if some reason your light gun just gets disconnected halfway through the game, it will reconnect it, then do all the re-initting of it, and then you can start doing commands again. So right now, Hook of the Reaper doesn't reconnect. Well, right now it can reconnect. It doesn't do the initting right now. It just, in this case, it does, just because when it does that, it does the opencom right after it. So in this case, it can do that. But like I said, right now I did this to make it work with the blamcom. Then next release, I'll hook it up to make it sure there's no problem for anything else. So now the blamcom will work with changing the modes with Hook of the Reaper. Then the next one actually was kind of a surprise. I still had problems with the open fire not changing back to keyboard and mouse mode when using the joystick mode. So this is kind of like the same thing, this code right up here. But when it was switching back to keyboard and mouse mode here, it wasn't working. And it was weird. And I figured out why that was happening. So like I said, you wanted the joystick mode because of the Nixos 3 emulators, because you put it in joystick mode to get the 2 players. This was actually kind of a due to mistake from myself, but it's kind of like a weird one because I don't know. I thought, so for OpenFire, when you do the E command, I thought it ended the serial port control or the serial port force feedback, but on OpenFire, actually that it does that, and also it ends the serial port communications. So that was the problem why it was closing. It was, so when you do close common init only, this was putting an E into it, which then closed the serial port. Then when you do the switching of the keyboard and mouse mode, it couldn't do it because the serial port was just disconnected. But I did have it working. It was weird, but I'll get into that. So when I tested it, it was working. This was because OpenFire was hanging and resetting, and when it would reset, it went back into the keyboard and mouse mode. So, and this is also when I was testing it, it was also the day after I had my surgery. So it was probably not the best to test this out. And I shouldn't have done it. There's kind of a reason why I did it, but yeah, I should not have done it. But the problem, I was probably drugged up and probably not feeling well. And this is why I don't code when I'm not feeling good, because I make mistakes like this. But because when the command, because what was happening when I was getting that close COM port, and when I was getting E here, then it went to the mouse, keyboard and mouse, which then right before it closed, and I got it, then it was hanging it. And I saw it was kind of hanging it, so when he redid it, then it reset and reconnected. So that's why it was working for me when I tested it a long time ago. But now that I was trying it out more, I got it more to not like hang, and it wasn't disconnected, and it wasn't working then, like I said, because it was closing the whole serial port code down. So now for the OpenFire, when you do a close COM or close comm or close comm init, it will put the E command in there automatically. So now I took the E out of, because usually when you open up the stuff, you'll see an E here. I can actually bring it up. So here I used to have like an E here. That's where it was coming in. But as you can saw, this was a problem. Because right, you come in here, you do this. This will end with the E, then you try to do keyboard and mouse mode. So that's where kind of the problem is. So that's why I took that E off. And now Hook of the Reaper puts it in when you do close comm automatically. So now it should do it automatically for, like I said, these two commands. So now you don't have to worry about it. Now it's working. So I tested out. But the one thing, I tested out the Blamcom because the Blamcom has the same kind of setup. It has the E command, but I know that it doesn't disconnect it. But I don't know for the gun for IR or for Fusion. So hopefully people can tell me if the E disconnects the serial port or not for these light guns or not. I looked up the documentation for gun for IR. It just says it ends the serial port commands, or it doesn't say that ends the serial port connection. So, and I think it's kind of the same way I forget for Fusion. So if people can tell me, because I don't own these light guns, so I can't test them or not. So if you can tell me, hey, if the E is shutting down the serial port or not, because if it is, then it'll be a quick change I can do. I can do the same thing that I did for Open Fire. I can just put the E in when these commands are called, and be the last thing. So it'll say close the COM port, and then Hook of the Reaper will close its side of the COM port, kind of thing. So that was another thing. So those were the two things. So more, it seems like I have a never-ending mouse and keyboard and joystick mode problem. But because of that, I kind of want to talk more, kind of go into it more. With the use of Hook of the Reaper to change modes, which is the aspect ratio in the control modes, the keyboard and mouse and joystick mode. So what I found out is most people use scripts and not Hook of the Reaper to change modes. And there's some benefits to that. So for the serial port, you don't need a serial port connection, right? If you use the command line echo command to COM X, where X is the number, you don't need a serial port connection to that. You can just send it to the serial port to the light gun. So it's just easy to set up. And I know a lot of people kind of do that for it. Of course, some of the minuses for that, you have to know the COM port, right? So if you have these multiple light guns, you have to put all the COM ports in it, and only works with the COM ports. So I know for the next release of the Sinden software, they'll have commands for the control modes in there. So this is the TCP server. So then I'll be able to switch keyboard and mouse mode to joystick mode for the Sinden in the next release of their software. But this only works for the serial port mode, which is pretty much most all the light guns, because the two other guns that run on USB HID are the Alien gun, which doesn't have like keyboard. It just uses like a joystick mode or positional mode. And then the other one was Aim Track, which I'm not too sure on if it has like a keyboard and mouse mode. But if it does, but I don't think it has command. I think I can, yeah, that was right. It does. I can change it in Hook of the Reaper. It's just a very hard thing to do, so I kind of left it out. And no one has really asked for it, so I kind of always just kept it out. But that's kind of the thing for the serial port. That's kind of one of the minuses. And also, if you get more light guns, then you have to go back to your scripts and add more to it and all that. And you have to know the commands and put them in. But so why is like Hook of the Reaper having all these problems with all these? Well, if you look back at MameHooker, MameHooker didn't give you any game files, right? You had to do them all yourself. So you had to go put all the stuff in, right, for your game files. So if you wanted to use joystick mode, you had to create a joystick mode for that, for those light guns files, right? So then you had to put them in. So every file was different. But remember, in Hook of the Reaper, I'm using one game file pretty much for all of it. So I need to have pretty much 12 light guns all to work on it. So it's a little harder to get all 12 light guns to work with all the same weird things, like the same thing with this, right? With the E shutting off the serial port. Okay, if that only happens with OpenFire, and it might happen with Gun4IR Fusion, then like I said, I have to go in and change it. It's like thing, because most people don't use Hook of the Reaper. I don't know if it fails or not. But if you're using Hook of the Reaper, what are the benefits? Well, Hook of the Reaper has the commands and output connections already, right? So Hook of the Reaper knows the serial port already. It knows all the commands already. So you can just use a generic command for it. So if you look at it, if you can just put aspect ratio 16:9, aspect ratio 4:3, joystick mode or keyboard and mouse mode, well, that's a lot better. Like for I know OpenFire, it's CM like x0 x0 or .0.0 or CM0.0. Then it go into joystick mode at CM0.1. Okay. Yeah, that's like kind of a lot harder to remember from joystick mode and keyboard and mouse mode, right? That was the whole thing about Hook of the Reaper, is just using generic commands to do it. So then everything's done with Hook of the Reaper. So you don't care about what, light gun. Yeah, if these two light guns are being used and signed, then it will switch them or not. But there's kind of some minuses for it. So the game files, right now, you only get game files for the only supported games that have outputs on them, output signals. So if you have a game that you wanted to change the aspect ratio for, you would have to create your own file right now, because right now, or you can create your own MameHooker INI files, because Hook of the Reaper does do MameHooker INI files. But you would have to, like I said, create them all by yourself, because I know I'm pretty much the main person that creates the default LGs. I know a lot of people. I think there's only like 3 people, kind of, I think, besides me, that know how to do default LG game files, which is kind of sad. It's been a year, but I know I've kind of, like I said, taken over for light guns, but still, I don't think people know. And the one reason, because MameHooker forced people to write files. If a new light gun came out, people had to write new files for them. There's no way around it. But with Hook of the Reaper, I could just drop in a new light gun, put the commands in, boom, it was ready to go. You can use the same file again. That was kind of one of the things. So for like a non-supported game, right, so it has no outputs, but you wanted to change the aspect mode or the control mode, well, you can still create like a default LG game file and just use opencom no init and closecom no init, right, with the command. So you can have opencom no init, then you put the command in there. You wouldn't put opencom after it. So then that would change that into joystick mode, or you can put the aspect ratio. So when you close it, you would have, so you wouldn't put this one in. Then you just have this one here, then you do that one right there. So you just take that out, right? Same with this one, you take that one out. That's how you can do it. So it's simple. It's simple files to do it, and they could, once you make one to change like the aspect ratio, you can just keep on copying it to all the games you want to. And then if you have an aspect ratio and you put it into joystick mode, you can keep on using that one. But just no one has done the game files for those yet or set them up. So I don't know if people, it might be easier just to make those files or maybe have a program to do it. But that's why I kind of just wanted to talk about Hook of the Reaper and changing aspect ratios and control modes, because there is benefits and minuses for using scripts, and there's benefits and minuses for using Hook of the Reaper. Like I always say, I love to give more options to people, and people can use those options. It doesn't hurt me if people just use scripts to change modes. Doesn't really matter to me too much, but I just like to give people the options, and that's kind of, since there's been so many problems with it, that's why I just kind of wanted to go through it. Wow, it's been like a long time. It's already been 15 minutes, and now we're just getting into enhancements. Oh my god, this is like going on. So I'll try to do these kind of fast because it's getting pretty long. So for enhancements, added a regular background command. So this is just for the regular lights, right? So this doesn't use the color map. And, updated group and group files for the light controller, and also the website. So if you go to the website and you go to like the light controller and you go to game files, you come down here, you can see I have, no, that's background RGB. So now you can come down here, I have like the background here has been updated and all that with all the information, and I put all the arguments in with the high count, the other group numbers, and all that. So that's been updated. And also for the group files too, I updated it because now when I get to it, you can see I have support for the other stuff. So that has been updated. So that's good. So now regular background command is in. Okay. And also I added in RGB and regular background commands for test light controller. So now if you bring Hook of the Reaper up, and now you go to test light controller, and now you can see you'll have like a color map, player number. Well, the color map was always there, but you have player number, time background reload, high count, other groups, and background number. So then that's in there. So you can put a background. So it only works with one background. So if you put in for one player, you can't. So if you put it in for player one, you can't put player two in. So you only can do one background at a time. You would have to close it out and reopen it if you do a background. But you can see I have all the stuff in there. And also I put another button in there to update it. So here, let's kind of go through it. So like I said, you only can have one background command running at one time. If you switch light controller, so if you have multiple light controllers and you switch the light controller from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, it will stop the background command. So then you can do the background command on the other controller. If you only have one controller, you have to close it out and reopen it to do a different background command on it. But switching controllers will stop the background command and clear it out. So now you can have the background lights light up, then have new commands run on top of it. So you have the background, then you can have like a flash or a sequence or random flash on top of it. Kind of the same thing what I was showing with the RGB background. And also, as you saw, you can update the background number. So the background number is kind of like ammo, life, or some other value. So the background is kind of used to show a player some value or not. Like I was showing it like the revolver in Virtual Cop, where you have like 6 bullets. Then it kind of reloaded like the revolver. But one thing you got to make sure, like I was talking about, you can only change or update it, the number, uh, for it to turn, it only can turn off one light at a time. So if you had like 6 lights on and you updated it to 4, it will only turn one light off. So you'll have 5 lights on, not 4 lights on. So you got to remember that, because when you're doing like ammo or numbers, it always goes by 1, right? So I'm always expecting that one change. Usually you don't get ammo in different values. But if you put 0 in, it'll take them all out, because when it gets 0, it makes sure it turns them all off. And this, because, like I said, this is only because it changes by 1. So just so you can see it. So here I have the background number here. Then you can update it. Like I said, if you had 6, then you can put 5 in here and you can update it. Then you have 5 lights, and you can have 4 lights, then 3 lights, and 2 lights. And if you put 0, it'll put 0 in. Then if you put 6 in it again, it will reload it up. But if you put a number like bigger, so if you have 4 in there and you put 6 in there, then it will turn that one light back on, because it will do a reload. So if the update is bigger from the last number, it will know a reload will happen and all that. So that's how you can play with where you can update the value with the background. But like I said, I just want to make sure you only can change one light off a time. Okay. Then the next big one is I added in support for the pack drive, the UHID, and the BlueHID. So since I moved the regular lights to states, it was very easy to put in. So it only supports, so right now the pack drive, UHID, and BlueHID only support regular lights, as it only has 16 lights. So if you use those 16 lights for RGB, you only have 5 lights. So I think most people that have the pack drive, UHID, or BlueHID are only using it for regular lights. So that's why I only put in support for regular lights. Then also David G from the Facebook group tested out the pack drive for me. So he has a lot of pack drives. I don't have a pack drive here. I know Ultramark said they could send me one, but I think because I moved it over to regular lights to states, I thought it would be pretty easy to do. And yeah, that's what it looks like. It only took me a couple hours to put the support in. So, and from the feedback from David is everything was working good so far. So big thanks for David for testing this out and helping out, since I didn't have a pack drive. So this is kind of the last of the Ultramark devices in complete support for Ultramark. So now I have, the pack drive, UHID, BlueHID, the pack 64 LED, the nano LED, and the pack Ultimate IO, which does 96 LEDs or 32 RGB. So that's really cool. So that kind of ends the Ultramark stuff. So with this last update. Okay. Another cool thing is, as I said, now I'm up to 12 light guns because I added in the arcade fixed light gun. So I worked with him, and he sent me the stuff. So I worked with Rusty to get the serial port info and his commands from him. So I added it into Hook of the Reaper. So now you can add and edit in his light gun, and it's in the default light guns combo box with all the settings. So I added in the arcade.hor file, which will be coming in with this release. So if you get the change file or the full release, it'll have it in there. So now it supports it as a default light gun in Hook of the Reaper. So like I said, now Hook of the Reaper supports 12 light guns, which is pretty crazy. Then the next one I think David told people about already is added in the command to turn on the red LEDs for the Alien USB light gun. This is the barrel, the top barrel kind of part. So when you pull the trigger, it turns the LEDs red. So I didn't know about these, but David told me, hey, he's like, hey, there's commands to do this during the pack drive testing. I was like, oh, really? So he sent me the data and the files and the video link going over it. So that was easy to update the alien USB.hor file to add in that new command. So big thanks to David for that. So he did the testing and helped me get this new command in for it. So thanks a lot to David. Then the next one is I kind of talked about earlier was got the Blamcom Alien Light Gun 2-digit display working. So I worked with Nathan F. To test things out. He was got the light gun and testing out things early. So I worked with him, and there was a problem with the first stuff I sent out. It was not working, but with David testing things out, he tested, made the changes I wanted, and tested. Then I figured out the problem pretty fast and got the second digit to work with it, with test out with it. Then, like I said, after that, I kind of knew what was the problem. So then I made a new exe and a new blamcom.hor file for him and sent him, and he got that and he tested out and it was working. The ammo was the correct ammo and all that. So both ammo and life is available depending on your priority choices. I kind of talked about this already, so I won't go through it again. So I updated the blamcom.hor file with the new display commands. And for it, you'll need the new Blamcom 2.0 firmware, which should be releasing. I don't know. I don't want to talk for Blamcom. I know they're somewhere testing it out, I think, but I do not know the dates or anything with it. So when that comes out, it will have that. So now Hook of the Reaper should be all set up for it. If you have version 1.2.9 or later. So that's really cool. So we got another display, and so now we have supporting 3 light guns with the displays, which is the Alien, the Blamcom Alien, and the Open Fire. So now I was going to talk about the roadmap a little more because I was talking about the roadmap with the light stuff. So now that I finished off the Ultramark stuff and the background stuff, I'm going to start working on the addressable LED, and I've gotten parts for it. So I've gotten a Raspberry Pi Pico 2W. I got like 144 WS2812B addressable LEDs, and I got a 5-volt 30 amp power supply and some addressable LED connectors too, just to make it easy to connect things. So one of the reasons why I picked the Raspberry Pi Pico 2W, it can do 1 millisecond USB polling. The Pico 2 has 12 programmable PIO, which supports a lot of the addressable LED interfaces. The PIO is a programmable I/O state machine, which then it can do different interfaces like the addressable LEDs. Usually you have like the normal ones like I2C or serial port or regular stuff like that, but these are kind of the different ones, and they have one for the WS2812B. They have example code for it too, so that kind of works good in with the W2812B LEDs I got already. So hopefully I can start writing out some code for it and try to get some addressable LEDs working. First thing I'm probably going to try out is just to have like a long like kind of long kind of list of LEDs. Like try to look, and mostly kind of for like ammo. So when you reload, it will light up all the LEDs. Kind of on the whole thing is supposed to be light up all the LEDs on your left side for player one. So if you're playing House of the Dead 4, you get 30 bullets. So I can make those, make 30 bullets, make one bullet equals 3 LEDs. So then it'll be like 90 or I can make 120, right? I can make four LEDs a bullet, then you have it go down. So then have it green when it's fully reloaded, then it can slowly turn to red or something when you get to 0. So when your last bullet will be red, then it'll flash red when you're done or something. So then you need the reload or something. And that would kind of be really cool to have. Then you can have your player 1 and player 2 on your both sides and have that like shining up. And so that's kind of like the first kind of command I'll probably start working on right away. So like I said, I got the code. So there's, like I said, they have example code and all that. I just need to start working on it. Okay, so then the last thing I want to talk about, I did write a new program. So it's in the open source and free to everybody. It's on my GitHub in a new repository. So it's called RomSniffer. So it watches the network output, kind of like Hook of the Reaper does. But when a new game starts, you can have it run a new program with arguments in it. So if you come back here, like I said, you just hit 6-bolt, and you come down here, you can see RomSniffer. So you can click that, and then I have a lot of info on how to run it. So to get the help stuff, you can go -H, and that will give you like how to run it. But usually when you run it, you go like RomSniffer.exe, then you put the program that you want to run in it next to it. Then if you want to use the ROM name, you use the %R%. So this gets switched out with the ROM name. So if you play House of the Dead 4, it will put, minus House of the Dead 4.txt or something. Or in here I say digdug, so it will run program x.exe minus digdug.txt or something. Then there is a debug mode for it. You go -DDD. So then, because usually it will disappear. And also, if you don't want it to disappear, you can go no hide. And no hide will not hide it, but it will be minimized too. But if you go DDD, it won't do anything. It will just keep it. It won't minimize it. It won't hide it. It'll just stay up, and you can see when a game starts, the program, and then the arguments and all that. So I know this is probably useful for a lot of people. So I put it out here for people to run, and you can get the release over here for it. Then the last thing was I was thinking about making a program to automate light controller game files, since I have all the default LG files done already. So what I was thinking, you will have a config file, and this will be 1 player, 2 player, 4 player. Then you'll list out output signals. So these are kind of like the output signals that you want to look for. So like one of them can be like recoil. So you can have like a list of all the recoil. I'll have a list of all the recoil output signals that I use. Then after that list, then you can put like the controller number and groups, right? Like normal, how you do a normal command. You have the controller and groups. Then if you have another controller, you have another controller and groups. Then you can put the command under it. Then the same thing with like ammo value, life, damage, lamp start, and you can put all those in. So then if you want to make them for 2 player, you put all the stuff in for player 1 and player 2. You put your the groups in for the controller, then you put the command in we want for the recoil, the ammo value, damage, life, and all that. then it'll read all the default LGs and see what's used in that game file, and then spit out the same kind of file, but for the light controller, using the controller and groups and the command that you want for it. So then you don't have to use the default group all the time. And the reason why I'm kind of thinking about doing this is now that I got the alter mark done, is so when a game that's not supported that by Hook of the Reaper, it's like, well, do you want like the Altamark like thing to run its own program where it's kind of doing different lights and going off or not? So that's why it's kind of have a setting in. But if you use the default all the time and it doesn't have any output signals, then it's just going to be blank all the time. So that's why I thought it would be good to have a program that creates everything for you. You just have to put in like I said, the controller and group numbers, then the command, and that. So you can pretty much just copy almost your default file. So you have your default file and go, okay, these are the recoils. So now you can just have one of them. Then that will just make cleaner game files for everything. So then when you play a non-supported game, you can have the Altamark internal program run. So you can still have some lights blinking and doing other stuff. Or I can have options to do other stuff where it just randomly does like rainbow or randomly turns on lights or something. But I don't know, you guys give me feedback on that or not. But that's why I know a lot of people are using the default file, but the problem with that, like I said, is if you want to use it for games that have no output signals, and you want to have lights going off and on, you can't do that with the default file. But that's why I thought if I can create all the supported game files from default LG game files that I have already, then it'd be easy to do. Say, hey, then you don't have to use the default anymore and have it. But please give me feedback on that. But I think we finally finished it. Oh my God, I think it's been like an hour and like 15 minutes. So to people who stayed on for that, thank you. You guys are like the best. So that was it. That was the whole thing. So like I said, I thought it was going to be a small release, and it turned out to be like this huge long thing. But it's finally out and done. But thanks. That's all. Bye.